then let me take you into the heart of the winter forest. The first steps into the snow. The winter morning was sharp and crystalline, the kind of day when every breath felt like a small cloud drifting into the air. The forest lay ahead, vast and white, stretching beyond the horizon like a sea of frozen waves. For weeks, the family had spoken of this journey. A father, a mother, and their 2 children, all dreaming of finding a place where they could build a small wooden home, a retreat from the noise of towns and the endless rush of modern life. They wanted silence, they wanted closeness to nature, and they wanted to feel the rhythm of the seasons in their bones. The father, whose name was Elias, carried a pack filled with tools, maps, and notebooks. He was practical, thoughtful, and always prepared. His wife, Marin, walked beside him, her scarf wrapped tightly around her neck, her eyes bright with anticipation. She had always loved forests, the way trees seemed to hold secrets in their trunks, the way paths curved like questions waiting for answers. Their children, Leora and Finn, ran ahead, laughing, their boots crunching in the snow, their cheeks flushed with the cold. They were young enough to see the world as a place of endless possibility, old enough to understand that this journey was something special. The forest they entered was not ordinary. At first, it seemed like any winter woodland. Birches with silver bark, pines heavy with snow, the occasional crow calling from a branch. But as they walked deeper, something began to change. The air grew warmer, though the snow still lay thick on the ground. The light shifted, becoming softer, golden even in the heart of winter. And the trees, oh, the trees began to grow taller, wider, more magnificent than any Elias had ever seen. Their trunks were like pillars, their branches like cathedral arches, stretching high above, where the sky seemed to shimmer with a faint, otherworldly glow. Leora was the first to notice. "Papa," she called, her voice echoing strangely in the stillness. "The trees are huge." She spread her arms wide, trying to measure the girth of one trunk, but her arms were laughably small against its immensity. Finn joined her, pressing his mittened hands against the bark. "It feels warm," he said, surprised. "Not cold like other trees." Elias frowned, curious. He touched the bark himself and felt a gentle pulse, as if the tree were alive in a way beyond ordinary life. He exchanged a glance with Marin, who smiled, her eyes shining. "Maybe we've found something rare," she whispered. "Maybe this is the place." They walked further, and the forest seemed to welcome them. Animals appeared, not with fear but with friendliness. A fox trotted alongside them for a while, its fur bright against the snow. A pair of deer watched from a distance, their eyes calm, unafraid. Birds sang, though it was winter, and their songs were sweet, carrying notes that seemed almost like words. The children laughed, chasing the fox, listening to the birds, marveling at the way the forest seemed alive with joy. The deeper they went, the more the forest revealed itself. The snow underfoot grew softer, almost like a carpet, and the air smelled faintly of pine and honey. Elias felt a strange peace settling over him, a warmth that was not physical but emotional, as if the forest itself were embracing him. He thought of the small cabin he had imagined building, a place with a stone hearth, wooden walls, a roof thatched with branches. Here, in this enchanted place, that dream seemed not only possible but inevitable. They stopped at a clearing where the trees opened to reveal a wide space bathed in golden light. The ground was covered in snow, but it glowed faintly, as if lit from within. In the center of the clearing stood a tree larger than all the others, its trunk so wide that 10 men could not have encircled it, its branches stretching like arms to the heavens. The family stood in awe, silent, feeling the majesty of the place. "This," Marin whispered, "this could be our home." But as they spoke, something stirred. From the shadows of the great tree came figures, human-like yet not entirely human. They were tall, their hair long and silver, their eyes bright like stars. They wore cloaks woven from leaves and snow, and they moved with a grace that seemed beyond earthly measure. The children gasped, clutching their parents' hands, but the figures smiled, their expressions kind. "Welcome," one of them said, their voice soft yet resonant, like wind through branches. "You have found the heart of the forest." Elias stepped forward, cautious but respectful. "We mean no harm," he said. "We are travelers looking for a place to build a home." The figure nodded. "This forest is not like others. It is enchanted, protected, alive. Few find it, fewer still are welcomed. But you carry peace in your hearts. The forest has chosen to reveal itself to you." The family listened, hearts pounding. Marin felt tears prick her eyes. Leora and Finn stared in wonder, their imaginations alight. Elias bowed his head, humbled. "If the forest allows," he said, "we would be honored to stay." The figure smiled again. "Then walk further, learn its ways, speak to its creatures. If you can live in harmony, the forest will give you a place." And with that, the figures faded back into the shadows, leaving the family alone in the golden clearing. The silence that followed was not empty, but full, rich with promise. Elias turned to his family, his voice steady. "We will walk further," he said. "We will learn." They set off again, deeper into the enchanted forest, their hearts filled with wonder, their minds alive with dreams. The journey had only begun, but already they knew. This was no ordinary place. This was a forest of giants, of warmth, of friendship, of magic. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would become their home. Deeper into the enchanted woods. The family rose early the next morning, their breath misting in the crisp air as they prepared to continue their exploration. The clearing where they had rested felt almost like a sanctuary, but Elias knew that if they were to choose a place for a home, they needed to see more of what this strange, enchanted forest had to offer. The snow crunched softly beneath their boots as they set out. Yet, unlike the biting cold of the world outside, here the air was gentle, almost spring-like. The children noticed it first. Finn tugged at his scarf, laughing. "Papa, it's not freezing anymore. It feels nice." Leora stretched her arms wide, twirling in the golden light that filtered through the towering branches. "It's like the forest wants us to stay," she said. Elias exchanged a glance with Marin. He could see the same thought reflected in her eyes. This place was not ordinary. It was alive, aware, and somehow benevolent. Meeting the animals. As they walked deeper, the forest seemed to grow more vibrant. Birds of colors they had never seen before darted between branches, their songs weaving together into a melody that felt almost like language. A hare hopped across their path, pausing to look at them with bright, intelligent eyes before bounding off into the underbrush. Then came the fox again, the same one from the day before, or perhaps another of its kind. It trotted alongside them, tail swishing, occasionally glancing up as if to check that they were following the right path. Finn laughed and tried to mimic its movements, while Leora whispered, "Do you think it's guiding us?" Elias crouched, watching the fox carefully. Maybe, he said softly, or maybe it just wants company. The fox barked once, a sharp but friendly sound, then darted ahead. The family followed, and soon they found themselves in another clearing, smaller than the first but no less magical. Here, the snow was dotted with patches of green moss, and in the center stood a cluster of stones arranged in a circle. The circle of stones. The stones were smooth, worn by time and faintly glowing in the golden light. Marin knelt to touch one, and as her fingers brushed its surface, she felt warmth. Not the warmth of fire, but something deeper, like the warmth of memory. She gasped softly. "What is it?" Elias asked. "It feels alive," she whispered, "like it remembers things." The children crowded around, pressing their hands to the stones. Finn giggled. "It's buzzing like it's talking to me." Elias placed his own hand on the stone and felt it too. A faint hum, a vibration that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. He closed his eyes, and for a moment he saw images, flashes of people long ago, building fires, singing songs, carving tools. It was as if the stones carried the memory of everyone who had ever stood here. "This place," Elias murmured, "is sacred." The forest spirits returned. As they stood in awe, the silver-haired figures appeared again, stepping silently from the shadows. Their presence was not frightening, but calming, like the arrival of old friends. "You have found the circle," one of them said, their voice like wind through branches. "It is where the forest remembers. Every creature, every traveler, every moment is held here." Marin bowed her head. "It feels beautiful, but why show it to us?" "Because you seek a home," the spirit replied. "And a home is not only walls and roofs. It is memory, belonging, connection. If you choose to live here, you must understand. The forest will remember you too." The children's eyes widened. Leora whispered, "So if we build a house, the forest will keep it forever." The spirit smiled. "Forever is a long word, but yes, the forest will hold your presence as it holds all others." Choosing a path. The spirits faded once more, leaving the family with the circle of stones. Elias felt a weight in his chest, not a burden, but a responsibility. If they chose to stay, they would become part of this place, woven into its memory. He looked at Marin, who nodded. "We should see more," she said. "We should find the place that feels right." So they left the circle and continued deeper into the forest. The fox trotted ahead, leading them along winding paths where the trees grew even taller, their trunks rising like towers, their branches forming arches overhead. The air was filled with the scent of pine and something sweeter, almost like honey. The children ran ahead, their laughter echoing through the trees. Elias and Marin followed, hand in hand, their hearts lighter than they had been in years. The hidden village. As the sun dipped lower, they came upon something unexpected. A village nestled among the trees. The houses were small, built of wood and stone, their roofs covered in moss and snow. Smoke curled from chimneys, and figures moved about, tending fires, carrying baskets, speaking in soft voices. The family stopped, astonished. "There are people here," Elias whispered. One of the villagers noticed them and approached. She was tall, with kind eyes and hair the color of autumn leaves. She smiled warmly. Welcome, she said. You are travelers, yes? Elias nodded. We are looking for a place to build a home. The woman's smile widened. Then you have come to the right forest. We live here in harmony with the trees, the animals, the spirits. If the forest has allowed you to enter, it means you are welcome. The children stared in wonder. Do you really live here all year? Finn asked. Yes, the woman said. And it is never too cold, never too harsh. The forest protects us. It gives us food, shelter, warmth. We give it respect, care, and love in return. A night among friends. The villagers invited the family to stay the night. They were given a small cabin with a fire already burning, blankets woven from soft fibers, and food prepared from berries, roots, and bread baked in stone ovens. As they ate, Elias felt a deep sense of peace. The villagers spoke of their lives, how they gathered herbs, how they cared for animals, how they sang songs to the trees. They spoke of the enchanted nature of the forest, how it chose who could enter, how it protected those who lived within. Marin listened with tears in her eyes. It feels like a dream, she whispered. It is real, the villager assured her. And if you choose to stay, it can be your dream too. Learning the ways of the village. The morning after their first night among the forest villagers dawned with a soft glow. The snow outside the cabin shimmered faintly, as if each flake carried its own light. Elias rose quietly, stepping out into the crisp air, and found himself listening to the hum of the forest. It was not silence, but a layered music. The rustle of branches, the distant call of birds, the crackle of fires being lit in nearby homes. Marin joined him, wrapping her shawl tighter. It feels alive, she whispered, like the forest is breathing with us. Elias nodded, his eyes scanning the towering trees. We need to understand how they live here. If we are to stay, we must learn their ways. Meeting the elder. Later that morning, the family was invited to meet the elder of the village. She was a woman of great age, her hair white as snow, her eyes deep and kind. She welcomed them into her home, a round hut built of wood and stone, its walls lined with herbs and woven tapestries. You are newcomers, she said, her voice soft but strong. Few find this forest, fewer still are welcomed. Tell me, why have you come? Elias spoke honestly. We sought a place to build a home, a place of peace, away from the noise of towns. We did not know this forest was enchanted, but now that we are here, we feel it calling to us. The elder studied him, then looked at Marin and the children. The forest chooses who may enter. It has chosen you. But to live here, you must give as much as you take. You must learn harmony. She gestured to the herbs hanging from her walls. We heal with what the forest gives. We eat what it offers. We build with what it allows. And in return, we protect it, honor it, and remember it. The children's discovery. While Elias and Marin listened to the elder, Leora and Finn wandered outside. They found a group of children from the village playing near a frozen pond. The ice glowed faintly, and the children were sliding across it, laughing. Come join us, one of them called. Leora hesitated, but Finn ran forward eagerly. Soon they were sliding too, their laughter mingling with the others. As they played, one of the village children pointed to the ice. Look closely, she said. Beneath the frozen surface, Faint shapes moved, fish, glowing softly, swimming as if the pond were alive with light. Leora gasped. "It's beautiful." The child smiled. "The forest gives us wonders, but it asks us to care for them. We never take more than we need." Learning to work with the forest. Over the next days, Elias and Marin began to learn the ways of the villagers. Elias joined the men in gathering wood, but he noticed they never cut living trees. Instead, they collected fallen branches, shaping them carefully into beams and planks. "The forest provides," one man explained. "We do not wound it." Marin spent time with the women, learning to prepare food from roots, berries, and herbs. She discovered that the enchanted forest offered harvest even in winter, bushes heavy with fruit, roots that grew deep and strong beneath the snow. "It is always generous," a woman told her, "but only if we respect it." The children learned too. Leora was taught to weave baskets from reeds that grew near the streams, while Finn learned to care for animals, foxes, deer, even birds that seemed to understand his gentle touch. The forest's test. One evening, as the family sat by the fire, the elder visited them again. "The forest has welcomed you," she said, "but it will test you. It always does. It must know that you can live in harmony." Elias frowned. "What kind of test?" The elder smiled faintly. "Not one of strength, but of heart. The forest will show you something, perhaps a challenge, perhaps a choice. How you respond will decide if you may stay." The family exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and nervousness. Marin squeezed Elia's hand. "We will face it together," she said. The forest's test. The enchanted forest had welcomed Elias, Marin, Leora, and Finn with warmth and wonder. They had seen the circle of stones, met the villagers, and felt the hum of memory in the trees. Yet the elders' words lingered in their minds. "The forest will test you." That night, as the family lay in their cabin, the wind outside rose in a sudden howl. The fire flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and Elias felt a strange unease. He rose, stepping outside into the snow, and saw the forest shifting. The golden glow that had filled the air was dimmer. The trees seemed taller, darker, and the silence was heavier. The storm. By dawn, the storm had arrived. Snow fell thick and fast, covering paths, burying rooftops, and muffling every sound. The villagers moved quickly, securing homes, gathering food, and tending fires. Elias joined them, hauling wood, while Marin helped prepare meals for those who had lost supplies. The children watched from the doorway, their eyes wide. "Papa," Finn whispered, "is the forest angry?" Elias shook his head. "Not angry, testing." The elder appeared, her cloak heavy with snow. "The storm is part of the forest's rhythm," she said. "It comes not to destroy, but to ask, will you endure together, or will you falter?" The lost animal. As the storm raged, a cry pierced the air, a sound of distress, high and desperate. Leora ran to the window and saw a small figure struggling in the snow. A young deer, separated from its herd, trapped near the edge of the village. Without hesitation, she turned to Elias. "We have to help." Elias hesitated. The storm was dangerous, the snow deep, the wind fierce. But he saw the determination in his daughter's eyes, the compassion that mirrored his own. He nodded. We'll go. Together, Elias and Leora pushed through the storm, the snow biting at their faces, the wind tugging at their clothes. They reached the deer, trembling and weak, its legs tangled in fallen branches. Elias knelt, cutting the branches free, while Leora stroked its fur, whispering softly. The deer looked at them with wide, frightened eyes, then calmed, as if recognizing their kindness. Elias lifted it gently, carrying it back toward the village. The choice. When they returned, the villagers gathered around. Some were wary. It is weak, one man said. It may not survive. Why risk our food and shelter for an animal? But the elder raised her hand. The forest watches. It sees your choices. To care for the smallest creature is to honor the greatest tree. This family has shown compassion. The forest will remember. The deer was given shelter, fed with herbs and warmed by the fire. Slowly, it regained strength. The children watched with joy as it stood again, its eyes bright, its body steady. The forest responds. When the storm finally passed, the forest seemed to glow brighter than before. The snow sparkled, the air was warm, and the trees hummed with a gentle energy. The villagers whispered that the forest was pleased, that the test had been passed. Elias felt it too. He looked at his family, proud of their courage and compassion. Marin smiled, tears in her eyes. "We belong here," she whispered. The elder approached them once more. "The forest has seen your hearts. You chose kindness over fear, compassion over caution. You are welcome here. The forest will give you a place." That night, as the family sat by the fire, listening to the soft breathing of the rescued deer, they felt a deep peace. The forest had tested them, and they had been found worthy. But their journey was not over. The enchanted woods held more secrets, more wonders, and more challenges. And as they drifted into sleep, they knew the forest would continue to shape them, teaching them what it truly meant to live in harmony. Choosing a place for home. The storm had passed, leaving the forest glittering under a pale sun. Snow clung to branches like lace, and the air carried a freshness that felt like renewal. The family stepped outside their cabin, the rescued deer now strong enough to walk beside them. Its presence was a reminder of the test they had endured, and of the bond they had formed with the forest. Elias looked around, his heart steady. "We came here to find a place for our home," he said. "The forest has welcomed us. Now we must choose where to build." Guided by the villagers. The villagers offered to guide them. A man named Corin, broad-shouldered and kind-eyed, led them along winding paths. "The forest will show you," he said, "but you must listen. It is not about where you want to live. It is about where the forest wants you." They walked for hours, the children running ahead, Marin stopping often to admire the way light fell through branches. Elias carried his notebook, sketching trees, marking paths, noting the way the land rose and fell. He wanted to understand not only the beauty but the practicality, water sources, shelter from wind, soil for planting. The hidden glade. At last, Corin stopped. "Here," he said. They stepped into a glade unlike any they had seen. The trees formed a circle, their trunks massive, their branches arching overhead like a protective dome. The ground was soft, covered in moss and snow that glowed faintly. A stream ran nearby, its water clear and sweet. Birds sang in the branches, and the air was warm despite the winter. Marin gasped. It feels perfect. Leora twirled in the center of the glade. It's like the forest made this just for us. Elias knelt, touching the moss. It was dry beneath the snow, resilient. He looked at the stream, at the way the trees sheltered the clearing, and he felt certainty. This is the place, he said. The forest's approval. As he spoke, the air shimmered. The silver-haired spirits appeared once more, their eyes bright. You have chosen well, one said. This glade is strong, protected, alive. It will welcome your home. The children stared in awe. Finn whispered, "It's like the forest said yes." The spirit nodded. "Yes, but remember, your home must be part of the forest, not apart from it. Build with care, live with respect, and the forest will shelter you." Beginning the work. The villagers helped them begin. They showed Elias how to shape fallen branches into beams, how to weave moss and bark into insulation, how to build without cutting living trees. Marin learned to mix clay and straw for walls, to craft windows from polished ice that glowed like glass. The children gathered reeds, stones, and herbs, laughing as they worked. The rescued deer followed them, curious, nibbling at moss, watching as the first foundations were laid. Choosing a place for home. The storm had passed, leaving the forest glittering under a pale sun. Snow clung to branches like lace, and the air carried a freshness that felt like renewal. The family stepped outside their cabin, the rescued deer now strong enough to walk beside them. Its presence was a reminder of the test they had endured, and of the bond they had formed with the forest. Elias looked around, his heart steady. "We came here to find a place for our home," he said. "The forest has welcomed us. Now we must choose where to build." Guided by the villagers. The villagers offered to guide them. A man named Corin, broad-shouldered and kind-eyed, led them along winding paths. "The forest will show you," he said, "but you must listen. It is not about where you want to live. It is about where the forest wants you." They walked for hours, the children running ahead, Marin stopping often to admire the way light fell through branches. Elias carried his notebook, sketching trees, marking paths, noting the way the land rose and fell. He wanted to understand not only the beauty but the practicality, water sources, shelter from wind, soil for planting. The hidden glade. At last, Corin stopped. "Here," he said. They stepped into a glade unlike any they had seen. The trees formed a circle, their trunks massive, their branches arching overhead like a protective dome. The ground was soft, covered in moss and snow that glowed faintly. A stream ran nearby, its water clear and sweet. Birds sang in the branches, and the air was warm despite the winter. Marin gasped. "It feels perfect." Leora twirled in the center of the glade. "It's like the forest made this just for us." Elias knelt, touching the moss. It was dry beneath the snow, resilient. He looked at the stream, at the way the trees sheltered the clearing, and he felt certainty. "This is the place," he said. The forest's approval. As he spoke, the air shimmered. The silver-haired spirits appeared once more, their eyes bright. "You have chosen well," one said. "This glade is strong, protected, alive. It will welcome your home." The children stared in awe. Finn whispered, "It's like the forest said yes." The spirit nodded. "Yes, but remember, your home must be part of the forest, not apart from it. Build with care, live with respect, and the forest will shelter you." Beginning the work. The villagers helped them begin. They showed Elias how to shape fallen branches into beams, how to weave moss and bark into insulation, how to build without cutting living trees. Marin learned to mix clay and straw for walls, to craft windows from polished ice that glowed like glass. The children gathered reeds, stones, and herbs, laughing as they worked. The rescued deer followed them, curious, nibbling at moss, watching as the first foundations were laid. The house that grew from the forest. The glade had been chosen, the foundations marked, and the family felt the forest's quiet approval in every step they took. Yet building a home here was not like building in the world outside. It was not about cutting, hammering, and forcing nature into shape. It was about listening, waiting, and allowing the forest to guide their hands. The forest's gifts. Elias began by gathering fallen branches, but he noticed something strange. Each morning, new branches appeared near the glade, as if the forest itself was offering materials. They were strong, dry, and perfectly sized for beams. Marin discovered moss that grew thick and springy, ideal for insulation. The children found stones polished smooth by the stream, perfect for a hearth. Animals helped too. Birds carried twigs and dropped them near the site. A fox dragged a bundle of reeds. Even the rescued deer seemed to contribute, pawing at the snow to reveal roots that could be woven into ropes. "It's as if the forest wants to build with us," Marin whispered one evening, watching as a squirrel dropped acorns near the doorway they had marked. Elias nodded, humbled. "We are not building a house in the forest," he said. "We are building a house with the forest." The villagers' teachings. The villagers came often, teaching them techniques passed down for generations. Corin showed Elias how to bind beams with vines that tightened as they dried, stronger than nails. A woman named Alira taught Marin to mix clay with ash, creating walls that breathed, keeping warmth in and dampness out. The children learned too. Leora was taught to weave mats from reeds, while Finn learned to carve small wooden charms that the villagers hung above doorways for protection. Each lesson was not only practical but spiritual. Every act of building was also an act of respect. The spirits watch. At night, when the family rested, the silver-haired spirits appeared at the edge of the glade. They did not speak, but their presence was felt. The children whispered that the spirits were watching to see if they built with care. Elias believed it too. He worked slowly, never rushing, always mindful of the balance between need and respect. One evening, as the walls began to rise, a spirit stepped forward. "You are learning," it said. "Your home grows not from force, but from harmony. Continue, and the forest will embrace you." The shape of the home. Weeks passed, and the house took shape. It was small but sturdy, with walls of clay and straw, beams of fallen wood, a roof of woven branches and moss. The hearth was built from stream stones, glowing faintly when fire burned within. Windows of polished ice let in soft light, shimmering like glass. It was not a house that stood apart from the forest. It was a house that seemed to grow from it, as natural as a tree or a rock. The glade embraced it, the stream sang beside it, and the animals wandered freely around it. The first night. When the house was finished, the family gathered inside. The fire burned warmly, the walls held the heat, and the air smelled of pine and clay. Elias sat by the hearth, Marin beside him, the children curled under blankets. The rescued deer lay near the doorway, calm and content. "This is our home," Elias said softly. "Not just a shelter, but a bond. We are part of the forest now." Marin smiled, tears in her eyes. "It feels alive," she whispered, "like the house itself is breathing with us." That night, as the family drifted into sleep, they felt the forest's embrace. Their home was not only built, it was accepted. And in that acceptance lay a promise. The enchanted forest would shelter them, guide them, and teach them, as long as they lived in harmony. Daily life in the enchanted woods. The family's new home stood in the glade like it had always belonged there. Its walls breathed with the forest, its roof blended with branches, and its hearth glowed with warmth. Yet building the house was only the beginning. To truly belong, they had to learn how to live each day in harmony with the enchanted woods. Morning rituals. Every morning began with the forest song. Birds greeted the dawn with melodies that seemed to weave through the air like threads of gold. Elias rose early, stepping outside to breathe in the crisp air. He noticed that the forest's light shifted with the hours. In the morning, it was pale and silver, softening the snow. By midday, it grew golden, warming the glade. And at dusk, it deepened into a violet glow that made the trees shimmer. Marin began her mornings by tending the hearth. She mixed herbs into the fire, herbs the villagers had taught her to use, which filled the cabin with scents of pine and honey. The children had their own rituals. Finn fed the rescued deer, now a constant companion, while Leora gathered water from the stream, watching how its surface reflected the sky like a mirror. Learning to harvest. Food was abundant, though it required care. The villagers taught them to gather berries that grew even in winter, glowing faintly under the snow. Roots could be dug from the earth, strong and nourishing. Mushrooms sprouted near fallen logs, their caps shimmering with frost. But the rule was always the same. Take only what was needed. Elias learned to measure portions carefully, ensuring nothing was wasted. Marin discovered that certain herbs could be dried and stored, their flavors preserved for months. The children delighted in finding hidden treasures, nuts buried by squirrels, honey dripping from hollow trees, fish glowing beneath the ice. One day, Finn caught a fish with his bare hands, its scales shimmering like silver. He held it up proudly, but instead of cooking it, the villagers taught him to release it back into the stream. "The forest gives," Corin explained, "but it also asks us to give back." Finn nodded solemnly, understanding that survival here was not about conquest, but balance. The rhythm of work. Days were filled with tasks that felt less like chores and more like rituals. Elias repaired beams, checked the roof, and carved tools from fallen wood. Marin wove mats, prepared meals, and tended herbs. The children helped with everything, their laughter turning work into play. Yet the forest seemed to help too. When Elias needed wood, branches appeared nearby. When Marin needed herbs, they grew at her doorstep. When the children searched for stones, the stream revealed them. It was as if the forest anticipated their needs, guiding them gently. The villagers' customs. Life among the villagers was rich with tradition. Each evening, they gathered around fires to sing songs, songs that told stories of the forest, of spirits, of ancestors. The melodies were simple but powerful, carrying echoes of generations. The family joined in, learning the words, feeling the rhythm. Leora loved the dances that accompanied the songs, twirling with the other children, her laughter ringing through the night. Finn was fascinated by the instruments, flutes carved from bone, drums made from hollow logs. He tried to play, his small hands clumsy but eager. Marin found joy in the rituals of cooking. She learned to bake bread in stone ovens, to brew teas from herbs, to prepare stews that warmed the body and soul. Elias discovered the art of storytelling, sharing tales of their journey, listening as villagers told stories of the forest's magic. The forest's moods. The enchanted woods were not static. They had moods, seasons, rhythms. Some days the air was bright and cheerful, filled with birdsong and sunlight. Other days it was hushed, solemn, as if the forest were deep in thought. Elias noticed that the trees seemed to lean closer when storms approached, their branches forming protective arches. Marin observed that animals grew restless before changes in weather, their movements faster, sharper. The children learned to read these signs, understanding that the forest spoke in subtle ways. One evening, the forest grew unusually quiet. No birds sang, no animals stirred. The villagers gathered, whispering. "The forest is listening," the elder said. "Something is coming." And indeed, the next morning brought a heavy snow, blanketing the glade in silence. Yet the family felt prepared, guided by the forest's warnings. Daily life in the enchanted forest was not about survival. It was about belonging. Every task was a dialogue with the woods, every ritual a bond, every moment a lesson. The family felt themselves changing, becoming part of something larger, something timeless. Their home was no longer just a shelter. It was a living thread in the tapestry of the enchanted forest. And as they drifted into sleep each night, they knew. The forest was not only their home, it was their teacher, their companion, their guardian. The forest of healing. The days in the enchanted glade had settled into a rhythm. Mornings filled with gathering food and tending the hearth. Afternoons spent learning from the villagers. Evenings alive with song and story. Yet harmony is never without its trials, and soon the family faced their first true challenge of daily life in the forest. The illness. It began quietly. One of the villagers, a young boy named Aaron, grew pale and weak. His laughter faded, replaced by a cough that rattled his chest. His mother brought him to the elder, who examined him with grave eyes. "It is the winter fever," she said. "It comes sometimes even here. The forest usually provides what we need, but this time it feels stronger." The villagers gathered herbs, brewed teas, and sang healing songs, but Aaron's fever did not break. His breathing grew shallow, his skin hot. Fear spread through the village, though no one spoke it aloud. Elias watched, his heart heavy. He had studied medicine in the world outside, though never practiced as a doctor. He knew fevers, infections, remedies, But here, in this enchanted place, the rules were different. He turned to Marin. "We must help," he said. "The forest has shown us kindness. Now we must give it back." Seeking the forest's medicine. The elder nodded when Elias offered his help. "You carry knowledge from beyond," she said. "But here, you must listen to the forest. It holds medicines you have not yet seen." Guided by villagers, Elias and Marin ventured deep into the woods. The air grew warmer, the light softer, and the trees seemed to lean closer, as if whispering. Birds flew ahead, leading them to a grove where strange plants grew, leaves broad and glowing faintly, roots thick and fragrant. "This is fever root," Corin explained. "We use it for sickness, but only in small amounts. Too much and it harms." Elias knelt, examining the plant. He touched its leaves, smelled its roots, and felt a strange pulse, as if the plant itself were alive with energy. He carefully harvested a small portion, thanking the forest aloud. The healing ritual. Back in the village, Marin prepared the fever root as she had been taught, boiling it gently, mixing it with honey, and singing softly as the steam rose. Elias measured the portions carefully, recalling his medical training. He gave Aaron a small dose, then waited. The boy's breathing eased slightly, his fever dipping. The villagers watched in silence, hope flickering in their eyes. Elias gave another dose hours later, careful not to overuse. Slowly, Aaron's strength returned. His cough softened, his skin cooled, and by dawn he was sitting up, smiling weakly. The villagers cheered, their voices rising in gratitude. The elder placed her hand on Elia's shoulder. "You listened," she said. "You combined your knowledge with the forest's gift. This is harmony. This is why the forest chose you." The children's lesson. Leora and Finn watched the healing with wide eyes. Leora whispered, "Papa, you saved him." Elias shook his head gently. "No, the forest saved him. I only listened." Finn nodded solemnly. "Then we must always listen." The children spent the next days learning more about the forest's medicines. Leora gathered herbs with the women, memorizing their uses. Finn followed the healer, watching how she prepared teas and poultices. They understood now that the forest was not only a home, it was a healer, a teacher, a guardian. The illness passed, leaving the village stronger, united by gratitude. The family felt their bond with the forest deepen. They had faced fear, but found healing. They had seen how compassion and knowledge could weave together into harmony. And as they sat by their hearth that night, listening to the soft hum of the enchanted woods, they knew. The forest had tested them again, and they had grown. Secrets written in bark. The days after Aaron's recovery were filled with gratitude and renewed energy. The villagers sang longer at night, their voices rising in celebration of life. Elias, Marin, Leora, and Finn felt themselves woven deeper into the fabric of the enchanted forest. Yet the elder reminded them gently, "The forest holds more than healing. It holds memory. You must learn its stories." The whispering trees. One morning, Elias noticed something unusual. As he walked along the stream, he saw markings on the bark of a giant tree. At first, he thought they were scratches from animals, but when he looked closer, he realized they were symbols, spirals, lines, and shapes that seemed deliberate. He He touched the bark and a warmth spread through his hand. The symbols shimmered faintly as if alive. Marin joined him, her eyes wide. "It's writing," she whispered, "but not like ours." The elder appeared, her steps silent. "These are the forest stories," she said. "Each tree remembers. Some hold the memory of storms, others of births, others of journeys. This one remembers travelers." Elias leaned closer, and suddenly he saw images in his mind. People walking through snow, carrying bundles, singing softly. He gasped, pulling back. "It showed me." The elder nodded. The forest shares its memory with those who listen. The children's discovery. Leora and Finn were fascinated. They began exploring, searching for more trees with markings. They found one near the glade, its bark etched with shapes of animals. When they touched it, they saw visions of deer running, birds flying, foxes playing. Finn laughed. "It's like the trees are telling us stories." Leora whispered, "Maybe they're telling us how to live here." The children spent hours tracing the symbols, listening to the whispers of the forest. They began to understand that every creature, every event, was part of a great memory, held in the bark of the giant trees. The hidden path. One evening, as the family walked together, the fox appeared again. It barked softly, then darted toward a cluster of trees. Curious, they followed. The fox led them to a narrow path hidden between roots. The path wound deeper into the forest, darker and quieter. The air grew heavy, the light dim. At last, they reached a clearing where the trees were older, their trunks massive, their bark covered in countless symbols. "This is the heart of memory," the elder said, who had followed them silently. "Few are allowed here. The forest has chosen to show you." The ancient carvings. In the center of the clearing stood a tree larger than any they had seen. Its bark was covered in carvings, spirals, stars, lines, shapes. Elias touched it, and visions flooded his mind. Generations of villagers, storms, celebrations, births, deaths, journeys. He saw the forest itself growing, changing, protecting. Marin touched it too, and tears filled her eyes. "It remembers everything," she whispered. The children pressed their hands to the bark, and their laughter echoed as they saw visions of animals playing, rivers flowing, stars shining. The lesson. The elder spoke softly. "The forest is not only a place, it is a memory. Every step you take, every word you speak, every kindness you show, it will remember. Your home is now part of this memory. You must live with care, for the forest forgets nothing." Elias bowed his head. "We will honor it." Marin nodded, her voice steady. "We will live gently, so the forest remembers us kindly." The children whispered together, promising to always listen, always respect. That night, as they returned to their home, the family felt the weight and wonder of what they had seen. The forest was not only alive, it was a great book, a memory that held every story. And now, their story was being written too. The stranger at the edge. The enchanted forest had become home. The family's cabin stood strong in the glade. The villagers welcomed them as kin, and the spirits watched with quiet approval. Yet harmony is never without interruption, and one evening, as the violet dusk settled over the trees, a sound broke the rhythm of the forest. Footsteps, heavy and uneven, coming from beyond the known paths. The arrival. Elias was the first to hear it. He stepped outside, the air sharp with winter, and saw a figure stumbling through the snow. The man was wrapped in a torn cloak, his face pale, his eyes wide with exhaustion. He collapsed near the stream, gasping for breath. Marin rushed to his side, kneeling in the snow. "He's freezing," she whispered. "We must help him." The children watched from the doorway, their eyes filled with curiosity and fear. Finn whispered, "Papa, he doesn't belong here." Elias nodded slowly. "No, but he has found his way in." The villagers, concerned. The villagers gathered quickly, their faces tense. "Few outsiders ever reach this forest," Corin said. "It is protected. Those who come without harmony are turned away. How did he enter?" The elder studied the man, her eyes sharp. "The forest allowed him for now, but we must see why." Some villagers were wary. "He may bring danger," one said. "He may not respect the forest." But Marin's voice was firm. "He is human. He is suffering. We cannot turn him away." The elder nodded. "Compassion first, then we will see." The stranger's story. When the man regained strength, he spoke. His name was Darren, a traveler from far away. He had wandered through mountains and valleys, seeking refuge from war and hunger. He had heard rumors of a forest where warmth lived even in winter, where food was abundant, where people lived in peace. "I did not believe it," he said, his voice hoarse. "But I followed the stories, and now I am here." The villagers listened in silence. Elias felt sympathy, but also caution. "The forest does not welcome everyone," he said. "Why did it let you in?" Darren lowered his head. "I do not know. Perhaps because I was desperate. Perhaps because I was alone." The forest reaction. That night, the forest grew restless. The wind howled, the trees creaked, and animals stayed hidden. The villagers whispered that the forest was watching, deciding. The elder came to Elias. "The forest is testing us again," she said. "It has allowed this man to enter, but it will see how we treat him. If he cannot live in harmony, the forest will turn against him, and perhaps against us." Elias felt the weight of her words. He looked at Marin, who held the children close. "We must guide him," she said. "We must show him how to live here." Teaching harmony. Over the next days, Darren stayed in the village. He was taught to gather food without greed, to build without cutting living trees, to sing the songs of the forest. He struggled at first, impatient, used to a world where survival meant taking. But slowly, he began to change. Finn watched him closely. "He's learning," he whispered. "The forest is teaching him." By the end of the week, Darren stood stronger, calmer. He had not yet proven himself, but he had begun to listen. The forest's winds softened, the animals returned, and the villagers felt peace again. The family understood. The forest had tested them not with storms or sickness, but with compassion for a stranger. And once more, they had chosen kindness. The glowing lake. The days after Darren's arrival were filled with cautious hope. He was learning, slowly, to respect the enchanted forest, and the villagers watched him carefully. Elias and Marin felt the balance of the woods shift again, as if the forest itself was waiting to see what would unfold. The path of light. One morning, the fox appeared once more, its fur bright against the snow. It barked softly, then darted toward a narrow trail. The children followed eagerly, calling for their parents. Elias and Marin exchanged a glance, then set off after them. The path wound deeper into the forest, where the trees grew taller, their trunks glowing faintly in the morning light. The air was warmer, filled with the scent of pine and something sweeter, almost like honey. At last, they reached a clearing where a lake lay still and silent, its surface shimmering with a strange glow. The lake's mystery. The water was unlike any they had seen. It glowed softly, as if lit from within, reflecting the sky in colors of silver and gold. Fish swam beneath the surface, their scales sparkling like stars. Birds circled overhead, their wings catching the light. Leora gasped. "It's beautiful." Finn knelt at the edge, dipping his hand into the water. "It's warm," he whispered. "Not cold like other lakes." Elias touched the water too, feeling a gentle pulse, as if the lake itself was alive. Marin stood silently, tears in her eyes. "It feels sacred," she said. The spirit's warning. As they stood in awe, the silver-haired spirits appeared once more. Their eyes were bright, their voices soft. "This is the Lake of Memory," one said. "It holds the stories of the forest, the lives of those who have lived here, the dreams of those who have passed." Elias bowed his head. "It feels alive." The spirit nodded. "It is alive, but it is fragile. If you drink from it, you will see visions. If you disturb it, you will break its balance. Respect it, and it will guide you. Harm it, and the forest will turn against you." The children's vision. Curious, Leora and Finn asked if they could drink. The spirit smiled gently. "A sip only. The forest allows it." They knelt, cupping water in their hands, and drank. At once, their eyes widened. Leora saw visions of animals running through the forest, of villagers singing, of trees growing tall. Finn saw stars shining, rivers flowing, and the cabin they had built glowing warmly in the glade. They gasped, laughing softly. "It showed us everything," Leora whispered. "It showed us our home." The lesson. The elder, who had followed them silently, spoke. "The lake reminds us that we are part of something larger. Our lives are threads in the forest's memory. We must live with care, for every action ripples through the water." Elias nodded, his voice steady. "We will honor it." Marin whispered, "We will live gently, so the lake remembers us kindly." That night, as they returned to their cabin, the family felt the weight of what they had seen. The glowing lake was not only beautiful, it was a reminder of the forest's fragility, its memory, its balance. And as they drifted into sleep, they knew. The forest had shown them another secret, another lesson. Their journey was far from over. The caves beneath the roots. The glowing lake had shown the family visions of memory and balance, but the forest was not finished revealing its secrets. One evening, as the moon rose pale and full above the trees, the fox appeared again. It barked softly, then darted toward a cluster of roots at the edge of the glade. Elias, curious, followed, with Marin and the children close behind. The hidden entrance. The roots belonged to one of the giant trees, its trunk wide as a house, its branches stretching like arms into the sky. Beneath the roots, a dark opening yawned, half hidden by moss and snow. The air that drifted from it was cool, carrying the scent of stone and earth. Finn's eyes widened. "A cave," he whispered. The elder, who had joined them silently, nodded. "Few are shown this place. The forest reveals it only to those it trusts. Beneath the roots lie the oldest memories." Elias felt a shiver of awe. He lit a torch, and together they stepped inside. The Cavern of Echoes. The cave opened into a vast chamber, its walls glittering with crystals that glowed faintly in the torchlight. The floor was smooth stone, worn by countless footsteps. Carvings covered the walls, spirals, stars, animals, figures of people. Marin touched one carving, her fingers tracing the outline of a deer. At once, she heard a faint sound, the echo of hooves, the call of the animal. She gasped. "It speaks." The elder nodded. "These are the echoes. Each carving holds a memory, a sound, a story. The forest keeps them here, safe beneath its roots." The children ran from carving to carving, pressing their hands against the stone. Leora heard laughter, songs, the voices of children long ago. Finn heard storms, rivers, the crackle of fire. Their eyes shone with wonder. The Chamber of Ancestors. Deeper in the cave, they found another chamber. Here, the carvings were larger, more detailed. Figures of people stood etched into the stone, their faces solemn, their hands raised. "These are the ancestors," the elder said softly. "Those who first lived in the forest, who learned its ways, who built the village. Their memory is carved here, so we never forget." Elias bowed his head, humbled. "It is a history," he whispered. "A library of stone." Marin felt tears in her eyes. "It is beautiful. It is alive." The spirit's presence. As they stood in silence, the silver-haired spirits appeared once more, their forms shimmering in the torchlight. "You have seen the lake," one said. "Now you see the caves. The forest holds memory in water and stone, in bark and song. You are part of this now." Elias spoke softly. "We will honor it. We will live gently, so the forest remembers us kindly." The spirit's eyes glowed. "Then the forest will protect you. But remember, memory is not only beauty, it is also burden. The forest remembers joy, but it also remembers sorrow. You must be ready." Caves beneath the roots were not only wonders. They were reminders of the forest's age, its wisdom, its memory. And as they drifted into sleep, they knew. The enchanted woods carried stories older than they could imagine. Their own story was now part of that great tapestry, etched into the memory of water, stone, and tree. The forest of remembrance. The caves beneath the roots had shown the family the weight of memory, etched into stone and carried through generations. Yet the elder's words echoed in Elia's mind. The forest remembers joy, but it also remembers sorrow. Soon, the family would learn what that meant. The passing. It began with silence. One of the oldest villagers, a man named Thalen, grew weaker with each passing day. He had lived in the forest his entire life, his hands shaping homes, his voice guiding songs. The villagers cared for him tenderly, but they knew his time was near. When the moment came, it was gentle. Thalen lay by the fire, surrounded by family and friends. His breath slowed, his eyes closed, and he slipped away as softly as falling snow. The forest seemed to respond. The wind hushed, the trees bowed slightly, and the animals grew still. Elias felt it in his chest, a quiet grief shared by the woods themselves. The ritual. The villagers gathered in the glade, carrying Thalen's body wrapped in woven cloth. The elder spoke softly. The forest gave him life, and now it receives him back. We do not bury our dead in silence. We sing them into memory. They placed him beneath the roots of a great tree, its bark etched with countless carvings. As they lowered him, the villagers began to sing, a slow, mournful melody that rose and fell like the wind. The forest seemed to join in, the branches creaking, the stream murmuring, the birds calling softly. Marin held Leora and Finn close, tears in her eyes. Elias bowed his head, humbled by the beauty of the ritual. The children's questions. Afterward, Leora asked, "Will the forest remember him?" The elder smiled gently. "Yes. His laughter, his work, his kindness, they are already part of the forest's memory. When you touch the bark, you will feel him. When you hear the wind, you will hear his song." Finn whispered, "So he is not gone?" "No," the elder said. "He has become part of the forest. That is how we live here. That is how we remain." The family's reflection. That night, Elias sat by the hearth, his thoughts heavy. "The forest holds everything," he said softly. "Not only joy, but sorrow too. It remembers all." Marin nodded, her voice steady. "It is not frightening. It is comforting. To know that nothing is lost, that every life becomes part of something greater." The children listened, their eyes wide. Leora whispered, "Then when we are gone, the forest will remember us too." The family had seen joy, healing, and wonder in the enchanted forest. Now they had seen sorrow, and how the forest carried it with grace. They understood more deeply than ever. To live here was to be part of a memory that never faded, a tapestry woven of laughter and tears, of beginnings and endings. And as they drifted into sleep, they felt the forest's embrace, not only in joy, but in grief, in remembrance, in eternity. Into the deep shadows. The forest had shown the family joy, healing, and remembrance. Yet harmony requires not only kindness but courage, and soon the enchanted woods would test them in a new way. The call of the elder. One evening, as the fire burned low in their cabin, the elder came to them. Her eyes were grave, her voice steady. "The forest has a place few dare to enter," she said. "It is older, darker, filled with secrets. The spirits say you must walk there. It is a test of courage." Elias felt a chill. What lies there? The elder shook her head. "Shadows, memories that are not gentle. The forest must know if you can face them." Marin placed her hand on his. "We will go," she said firmly. "Together." The path of darkness. At dawn, they set out. The fox led them once more, but its movements were slower, cautious. The path wound deeper into the forest, where the trees grew so tall they blocked the sun. The air was heavy, the silence thick. The children clung to their parents' hands, their eyes wide. "It feels different," Leora whispered. "Like the forest is watching." Finn nodded, his voice trembling. "It's not warm anymore." Elias kept his voice calm. Stay close. We will face whatever comes. The shadows. As they walked, shapes began to appear among the trees, dark figures shifting, whispering. They were not spirits of light, but shadows of memory. Storms, hunger, fear, sorrow. The forest was showing them its burdens, the pain it carried. Marin felt her heart pound, but she held her children close. Do not fear, she whispered. These are memories, not monsters. Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. We see you. We honor you. We will not turn away. The shadows swirled, pressing closer, but they did not harm. They seemed to test, to measure, to ask, will you face sorrow as you face joy? The courage of the children. It was Leora who stepped forward first. She looked at the shadows, her small voice clear. You are part of the forest too. We are not afraid. Finn joined her, his hand trembling but strong. We will remember you, just like the trees do. The shadows paused, then slowly receded, fading into the trunks and branches. The air grew lighter, the silence softened, and a faint glow returned. The spirits' approval. The silver-haired spirits appeared, their eyes bright. You have faced the shadows, one said. You did not turn away, you did not deny sorrow. This is courage, this is harmony. Elias bowed his head. We will carry both joy and sorrow. We will live with all of it. Marin whispered, we will not forget. That night, as they returned to their cabin, the family felt changed. They had faced the forest's darkness, its sorrow, its shadows, and they had not faltered. They understood now that harmony was not only about kindness and joy, but about courage, remembrance, and acceptance. The enchanted forest had tested them once more, and they had grown stronger. The heart of renewal. The family had faced storms, sickness, sorrow, and shadows. Each trial had deepened their bond with the enchanted forest, teaching them that harmony was not only joy but also courage and remembrance. Now, the forest prepared to show them something new: renewal, rebirth, and hope. The path of blossoms. It began unexpectedly. Though snow still lay thick upon the ground, the fox appeared once more, its fur brighter than ever, and led them toward a narrow trail. As they followed, they noticed something strange. Buds forming on branches, flowers pushing through snow, colors blooming where winter should have ruled. Leora gasped. It's spring, but it's still winter. Finn knelt to touch a flower, its petals glowing faintly. The forest is changing, he whispered. Marin smiled softly. It is showing us its heart. The meadow of renewal. The trail opened into a meadow unlike any they had seen. Snow lay in patches, but grass grew tall and green. Flowers bloomed in every color, and butterflies danced in the air. The stream ran clear and warm, its banks lined with blossoms. Elias stood in awe. It is spring inside winter, he murmured, a place of rebirth. The villagers joined them, their faces reverent. This is the heart of renewal, the elder said. The forest keeps it hidden, showing it only to those who have faced sorrow and courage. It is a reminder that life always returns. The children's joy. Leora and Finn ran through the meadow, laughing, their hands brushing flowers, their feet splashing in the stream. They chased butterflies, their voices ringing with joy. Marin watched, tears in her eyes. "They are free," she whispered. "The forest has given them hope." Elias nodded, his heart full. "It is showing us that after sorrow comes renewal, after darkness comes light." The spirit's blessing. The silver-haired spirits appeared, their forms shimmering among the blossoms. "You have faced storms, sickness, sorrow, and shadows," one said. "Now the forest shows you renewal. This meadow is its promise, that life continues, that hope endures." Elias bowed his head. "We will remember." Marin whispered, "We will live with hope." The spirit smiled. "Then the forest will bless your home with renewal. Each season, each trial, each joy, it will weave them together into harmony." The family's reflection. That evening, as they sat in their cabin, the children still glowing with joy, Elias spoke softly. "We have seen the forest's heart. It is not only memory, not only sorrow. It is renewal, rebirth, hope. That is what makes it alive." The enchanted forest had shown them its heart of renewal, a place where spring lived inside winter, where hope bloomed even in the coldest season. The family understood now that their journey was not only about finding a home. It was about becoming part of a cycle of life, memory, courage, and renewal. And as they drifted into sleep, they felt the forest's promise that no matter what trials came, life would always return and hope would always endure. The celebration of belonging. The enchanted forest had tested the family with storms, sickness, sorrow, and shadows. It had shown them memory in stone, renewal in blossoms, and compassion in the face of strangers. Now, as the seasons turned within the timeless woods, the forest prepared to welcome them fully, not as guests, but as kin. The invitation. One morning, the elder came to their cabin, her eyes bright with warmth. "The forest has spoken," she said. "It is time for the celebration. Tonight we gather to honor your journey, your courage, and your harmony with the woods. You are no longer newcomers. You are part of us." Elias felt his chest tighten with emotion. Marin's eyes filled with tears. Leora and Finn clapped their hands, their laughter ringing through the glade. The gathering. At dusk, the villagers lit fires throughout the meadow of renewal. Flames flickered, casting golden light on blossoms and snow. The air was filled with music, flutes, drums, voices rising in song. Animals gathered too. Deer stood at the edges, foxes darted between fires, birds circled overhead. Even the spirits appeared, shimmering among the trees, their eyes glowing with approval. The family walked into the meadow, hand in hand. The villagers greeted them with smiles, placing garlands of flowers around their necks. "Welcome," they said. "Welcome home." The dance of harmony. The celebration began with a dance. Villagers moved in circles, their steps slow and graceful, their hands raised to the sky. Elias and Marin joined, their movements uncertain at first, but soon they found the rhythm. Leora twirled with the other children, her laughter blending with the music. Finn clapped to the beat, his eyes shining. The spirits moved among them, their forms flowing like wind, their voices humming in harmony. The forest itself seemed to join. The trees swayed, the stream sang, the stars glowed brighter. The feast. After the dance, the villagers shared a feast. Bread baked in stone ovens, stews rich with herbs, fruits glowing softly in the firelight. The family ate with gratitude, tasting the forest's gifts, feeling its abundance. Marin whispered, "It is not only food, it is love." Elias nodded. "It is the forest's way of saying we belong." The promise. At the height of the celebration, the elder raised her voice. "Tonight, we welcome Elias, Marin, Leora, and Finn as part of our memory. The forest has tested them, and they have lived with kindness, courage, and respect. From this day, they are not visitors. They are family." The villagers cheered, their voices rising like wind through branches. The spirits smiled, their forms glowing brighter. The forest hummed, its song deep and strong. That night, as the family lay in their cabin, the fire warm, the forest humming, they felt a peace deeper than any they had known. Their journey was complete. They had come seeking a place for a home, and they had found not only a forest but a family, a memory, an eternity. The enchanted woods had welcomed them, tested them, taught them, and embraced them. And now their story was part of its great tapestry, woven into the memory of water, stone, and tree. They belonged.